Alright. It's Jared here from Crypto Plan. How's everyone going? I hope you're well. We're going to be talking about Internet Computer, the DFINITY project today, and why I don't think you should buy it yet. But before we get into why I'm going to tell you not to buy it yet, let's like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and also click that notification bell if you so desire to be updated on the spot when these videos come out. Anyway, so we're on the web page of the DFINITY org. Just a quick overview if anyone hasn't heard of it. I've just come across this. It seems to be, the next big thing in blockchain. I guess using the blockchain to create supercomputing power. And just, I guess, speed up the blockchain in general. Seems to be a really popular project, seems to have a lot of support, and it was up there at number 8 in market cap yesterday on launch, from the launch recently on the May 7th. So a lot of exchanges are trading it, there's a lot of hype around it, so we're just going to have a deep dive into the chart, or what we can do of the chart of the limited data we have, to see what might play out in the future and when would be the best time to buy it. Okay, so we're coming over here, and I've basically got all the charts versus a dollar or a tether or whatever down the bottom here in my watch list. So the first one would be on Binance, and then we've got Coinbase, and then we've got we've got multiple other exchanges there. Bing Bong, KuCoin, and hit BTC there, right? So there's a varying kind of array of charts there, and they're mainly on the 4-hour candle. I could potentially go down to a lower time frame, but I think the 4-hour candle is a good one. I like the 4-hour candle for crypto. A good amount of stuff happens in a 4-hour. We get an idea of wicks and where things wants to go, so that's what I'll continue to use. Now you can see I've drawn a triangle on here. For those of you that have been around for a while, I just want to kind of bring you back to the idea of what this triangle means. So if we go back to Hawthorne Networks, this was another coin that was a new listing. Now this is not by any means a coin that went to number 8 in the market cap straight away, but you can kind of see here that if we grab a thing, that basically this did a triangle pattern before it broke out, right? So, and this particular one, how long did it take? It took, the grand total of about 30 odd days to really break out. Now, moving back to the internet protocol, or the internet computer, sorry, I've drawn this triangle here, and I don't believe this is the end of the story, as in I believe that there is possibly potential downside, because you've got to remember that a lot of people were given this coin early on, so a lot of people that hold this pre-launch are well in profit. So at any time they can sell and they can move on and they can do whatever they want. So it's kind of like an IPO, I guess, where you just don't know what's going to happen. And you've already seen today that, from yesterday, that after listing on a lot of these exchanges, 55% corrections, so there's a potential that this thing can go lower. And if it doesn't, that's fine also, because what the other thing I see is that at a minimum it's going to kind of react to this triangle pattern, bounce off somewhere up here halfway, in this downfall, and then kind of fall back, and then maybe kind of grind its way to the end of this triangle. But there is this other potential that, we potentially go lower, another lower low, and then, kind of a lower high, or something along those lines, where this thing does end up playing out a lot longer, more like that 30 days. So what's my advice? Just have a look, have a watch. If you're desperate to get in, by all means, put a nibble in, like put a little bit in, bit of skin in the game so you don't miss out. Let's say it does fly to the upside and this ends up being a V correction and it flies on out of there. But I haven't seen that. I haven't been seeing any of these major kind of V corrections on an initial coin offering. Generally, they kind of start high, they kind of drop low, and then they squiggle their way all the way along, find a base, and then they kind of find their way out of there. So, that's our options. We're going to kind of fly up, fly down, kind of grind our way through here, and then come on out of there. Or we could potentially do something a little bit different, which, might just be kind of do one big pullback and correction and then kind of just, squiggle our way really sideways for a while and then kind of make our way out of there. Now, I mean, at some point, this thing's going to fly to the upside, but I really think there needs to be this shakeout of the people that got it early and they definitely bought it to sell it when it was listed on exchanges, because that's what happens. People invest in these things a long time ago to support the project and fund the project on the basis that when it gets listed and they're able to off-ramp, that they do that, and that's fair enough. That is up to them. If they've put millions of dollars into a seed funding and got these tokens, then they have every right to cash out. And, you're definitely going to be cashing out when these things go up in price, so they probably sell a little bit here and then everyone's selling on the way down. People are buying in that haven't got it, and then it kind of spikes back up. The buyers come back in, then these people go, second time to sell a part of my bag, and then it drops down again, and then that's where we find that, that wiggling away of bulls versus bears, people that have the thing and were intending to sell it, and people that want to get in and buy it on the ground level that didn't have those millions of dollars to invest in ICOs or whatever. So that's my story. That's what I think. I've seen this before. I'm excited about it. I definitely want to buy it. I just would be more inclined to wait because, particularly on that Hathor chart, and Cake did something like this recently where I was playing a triangle, and I thought, a certain pattern was playing out, then it dipped lower and it dipped lower again. And so I think sometimes it's better to sit on the sidelines, especially if you've got a nice portfolio and you don't need any, new bags or massive gainers because, you've got a lot of solid projects that are going to do some big moves at the end of alt season. So be patient on this one, have a wait, really try and buy the dips on this one, if you know what I mean. So like I say, I could see this thing kind of coming down towards the lower edge of the 200s on the next dip, the next Bitcoin drop or whatever, because that's the other thing we've got to realize, that for me, I've got these targets in play for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's taken a big dump recently. Everyone's saying it's because of Elon and Tesla, but there's this idea that does the news create the charts, or do the charts create the news? There is a potential that Tesla have created this story saying about energy, blah blah blah. This is why we're not getting, we're getting out of it. Are they creating that as an excuse because they saw this crash coming from a technical perspective? Because to assume that Tesla, a really progressive, smart, intelligent group of people that are making these amazing cars, didn't do their research about the mining power of Bitcoin and the fact that it uses fossil fuels, I find that hard to believe. I would be more likely to believe that they invested in Bitcoin to get a little bit of profit out of it for a short period of time, to maybe cook their books a little bit so that they can stay in the S&P 500. And that's not a conspiracy theory, it was all the information's out there. They were publicly saying that they could use Bitcoin, and if there was unrealized gains, they would put it on their balance sheet and say that that was a profit, even though they hadn't realized the gains. They recently sold some, so there is definitely an element of them using Bitcoin to their advantage That is fine. Me and you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to buy Bitcoin whenever you want and sell it whenever you want. I just think the narrative they created suits them, and I think that, I'm no talented, experted technical analyst, but I do know that this structure, this kind of week 3 spike uptrend, it could look bullish, but it's been bearish, and it's always been bearish. This thing is going to crash further, in my opinion. So I've got a target down here of 39. So that's what I'm saying. When Bitcoin runs down and finally kind of reaches out to this lower target before it makes its next move up, because you've got to remember that there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines going, when it drops below 40, I'm going to buy. So the buying pressure will come in. There's a lot of big money. There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, and a lot of people that will be willing to buy in when it drops below 40. So you need to understand that makes sense to them. Why? Because a lot of people are saying it's going to 100,000. Now, if you bought it at 60 and goes to 100,000, what's that? 40% gain. If it drops back to 40 and goes to 100,000, it's over double your money. So for a big institutional investor, a big investor in general that has millions or multi-millions of dollars, and they want to get really good gains on that, 100% gains, this is an option for them. They see that from a technical perspective. If it drops back to 40, they're a lot safer entering there than they are at 60. There is upside from 60, but there's a lot more upside from 40, right? So you've got to be aware that people are sitting there waiting for that, and that is what will happen when Bitcoin eventually reaches lower. And this is, I only picked 39 because it's an obvious kind of point of support, because these two kind of 3-4 wicks there that we're trying to break out of this range, and then so we flip that, and then it becomes support, right? So we're going to flip this previous resistance into support, test off there, and then kind of firing out of there. So I'm public about that. I've been public about that. And I'm not saying that I'm the most patient person in the world, and I could wait for that. But I guess the idea is right now that if there's a trade to be done in the future, particularly on something like our ICP, these are the sort of events that I'd be waiting for, just to average yourself in, So we've had one last night, you could have bought your first little chunk then, even today you could buy a first little chunk, it's well lower, waiting for the next kind of leg down in Bitcoin. Bitcoin might reach down to 44, 43, and it'll kind of dip again, and Bitcoin will go sideways a bit longer, and then finally Bitcoin will reach down, and we'll get the last tap on the bottom. And by that time, you can see where the bottom is in something like ICP, and you can be like buying the bottom, buying the bottom, buying the bottom, and then maybe piling in on the breakout, really leveraging it on the breakout. And then you've built yourself a nice position in something like ICP. So that's my plan. That's what I'll be doing. Take the advice, whether you like it or not. But yeah, these triangle patterns generally play out on these initial coin offerings to the upside, because we're in a bull market, right? So the thing started at this price. The market said that was a fair price to start. It's dropped down, and it's just got to work its way out to find a nice average volume base. So that's where we're at with ICP. I hope you've liked this analysis. And yeah, I've been Jared. This has been Crypto Plan, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye now.